kind of be down here with your camera, which is still kind of, you're not sure about. And then you look back and say, holy shit, where'd they go? You know? Ready, go! I read it some time ago, and I just liked it a lot. I thought this would be fun to make a movie out of it, though it would be very ambitious to make a movie out of. And then it turned out that DreamWorks had bought the property. So I kind of forgot about it a while, though I did mention to Steven Spielberg that I did like the property very much. And just left it hang in the air like that. Now Tokyo Rose is talking about missing girlfriends and loved ones and et cetera, et cetera.
And then I recall we were at the Governor's Ball at the Academy Awards in 2004 after Mystic River had been nominated. And Steven came over to our table, and Clint and he were talking for quite a while off to the side. And the following week, Clint came into my office. We were in pre-production on $1 Million Baby, and he had said that Steven had offered him the project to direct. I remember he had this big grin on his face. He says, it's big, it's really big. And I said, well, we can do big, we can do big. So that was how it first came together, and we just started working on it while we were still working on $1 Million Baby. But James hadn't had a lot of experience with the filmmaking process, and so I don't think he really knew quite what to expect. And at first he was a little bit cautious with us as to what we'd be doing with the story of his father, and I'm quite certain he felt he was in good hands with Steven Spielberg producing and Clint Eastwood directing. I know he felt like, you know, he had hit the jackpot there, but still he was a little concerned as to what we'd do with the story. He read the script and was very pleased, and he came in and he sat down, and in classic James Bradley form, he just proceeded to conduct a lecture for at least an hour and a half, and it was moving. He's so passionate about the story, and we didn't have to ask but maybe 3 questions the whole time. He just told us everything we needed to know to make this movie.
And so we just pick him up this way, bring it into the
On this one here, we'll just go with his face. Yeah.
All of us that have worked with Clint for a while have just gained his trust somehow. All of us started in a position where we could prove ourselves to him, and then were given the opportunity to move up. I started as an assistant director. Tom Stern started as his lighting gaffer, and the only exception maybe would be Henry Bumstead, who was pretty well established by the time he started working regularly with Clint. And it was just sort of understood that once you'd done a project with Clint, if he was happy with your work, you were the guy until you turned it down.
I was given the script probably a month or 2 after I'd read the book, and was quite taken with it. And then I was doing another film called Last Kiss with Tony Goldwyn. He gave me a present, which was a series of photo annuals from the war years. It proved to be absolutely invaluable in terms of kind of imagery and visual idiom and things like that. And Clint's real succinct. I was once quoted in the New York Times as saying he's the most articulate, totally nonverbal person I'd ever met. And that was a long time ago, and I think it holds true. So we've been working together since '81, so I can read him pretty well, and we just sort of go back and forth about what we're thinking. But I think the prime thing about Clint is, if you think of that term plastic arts, plastic not meaning like Tupperware, but malleable, that Clint likes to leave things plastic until the very last possible moment.
Well, the script calls for 3 of them, right? Mm-hmm. So we'll do 3 of them. But these can be changed. Roll sound, please.
Safety's off.
Light him if you got it.
The trick about this movie for me, I think, is to make it like a personal epic as opposed to an epic. So there's sort of moments where there are visual opportunities to really kind of let it out. And for the most part, when I'm thinking about it, we always try to see it through the eyes of the character rather than just some big crane shot or something like that. That's maybe an objective shot rather than a subjective shot, or we'll start with a sort of a subjective shot and then it becomes an objective shot. And with 4 to 8 of those moments in the film, it sort of gives you enough context to the scope of World War II and what these characters were doing.
Doc! Get the hell in here! Doc!
You start with the script, and you can't go anywhere without a script. But the last write of the script is the editing. And I think what editing is trying to take the audience for this ride with the characters and to make it as seamless. They say, what's a good edit? And an edit you didn't see. It just flows together, and you're drawn in the story that you don't even see those edits happen. You're so involved in the story, and that's what I think was a good film. Because not only do we have those action scenes, but we have these very dramatic scenes in it. And so you're taking the audience from this, guns and things blazing and explosions and everything going on to also it's a somber moment. And the first cut, it was an epic. Because I'm an editor that believes that whatever the director shoots, to my best of my ability, I use all the film. Now, is it going to be long? Absolutely. But does the director get to see everything he shot? Yes.
Okay, guys. Who wants to be famous?
From the beginning, it was Clint's idea not to find big-name stars as much as he just wanted really good actors that fit the part as best we could find. And age was a consideration. He really wanted to try and keep people as young as possible, and yet they needed to be able to carry off these dramatic scenes. But casting was in good hands with Phyllis Huffman back in New York and in LA, where she'd moved back and forth. She had her work cut out for her on this project because we had well over 100 roles to cast. And I think she saw every young actor in New York and Hollywood. Every single one seemed to come through the doors to read for a part.
I went in 2 or 3 times with Phyllis Huffman, who's, pretty much the best at what she does. Just a great person, very warm and engaging person, makes you feel comfortable. The auditions are probably the worst part of our job as actors, and she makes it very comfortable.
Ira, they're cops. They're supposed to have nightsticks. You're not supposed to be in the street swinging a chair.
Since it's a historical piece, there's a lot of research that has to be done. And first of all, we look at the pictures, and most of the times we try to recreate what we see. And I think before the movie is completed, we will have dressed almost 10,000 as far as background and principals. So it's quite a big show. It was probably around a 3 or 4 month prep to get everything together, and we needed all that time. It was a long process.
Action! Go, 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 go!
And with the Marines, they have their HBTs, and that's what they basically fight in. And then we did have to make the HBTs because there were so many of them. At many times we had to fit like over 500. So we had to get the fabric, find the fabric, the twill that they really don't make anymore. And then we had to dye it, and then we had to age it, so it was a long process.
Next command, nobody leaves this craft until you hear the ramp is clear. That's your signal to say, follow me, you got that?
We needed a military technical advisor for this project. And Clint actually had worked with somebody in the past on Heartbreak Ridge. And at the time, the guy was a Marine at the base where he was filming the movie. And the gentleman, Jim Deaver, decided at that point that that's what he wanted to do after he got out of the military service, was become a military technical advisor. And he'd been doing that for the last 15 years or so.
Spread it out so I can get a good run through the smoke on the camera, okay? You stay right there, spread it out all the way down.
We do the research of that time period, and for Flags of Our Fathers, it's, for EWO, the 28th Marines, 2nd Battalion. So we make sure that all the uniforms, the equipment, we worked hand in hand with the props, wardrobe, And with the special effects, make sure for the explosions. And the weapons, make sure that's the proper weapons for each individual to carry, going with his equipment.
Yeah, so it's like the ante-room to the dining room. Right. Yeah, that's brilliant.
We're one of the first ones to get a script. I think maybe I had the second or third script on Flags of Our Fathers. And so I read it and think about where different things should be and start looking for locations, trying to keep everything together close by so you have a full day's work one area and a full day's work the other area. So it's a big job. I have location scouts too that help me, and they may look at 5 or 6 places and then they show them to me, and then I pick the ones that I think maybe I'd like to use or just to show Clint.
We found as many of the locations as possible just to give it the proper scope. We went to Washington, actually, technically we went to Arlington, Virginia, and shot at the memorial there. And we went to Chicago for Soldier Field and for a few other locations that looked like the Midwest. We went to Texas to shoot on the USS Texas, and then all over California for the right looks, that we could find places that represented other parts of the country.
Had this one ship that they have down in Long Beach, which is in really good shape. These guys have kept it in terrific shape. It's kind of a hobby, I guess they conduct tours on it, but it was very, very good shape for filming. And we just had to put things back to the way they were in World War II. They were very exacting, the art department.
So many sets and all over town and out to the desert and airports and this and that, and it's really, really kept me busy, really too busy.
The biggest challenge we had was Iwo Jima, finding someplace we could stage that battle, because that location was so unique. We went to Iwo Jima, Clint and I did, back in April of 2005, and got a look at the beach. And we'd done our research, and we knew what we were up against, and we needed a black sand beach that had to be, of a significant scale. The beach there is 3.5 miles long, and it's got some dimension. It's got a bank and a real absence of vegetation. So we started looking for a black sand beach that fit those characteristics, and everybody and their uncle had a suggestion. And Kokai Ampaz, our location manager, sort of shared some research photos with a bunch of film commissions, and these two fellows from Iceland came up with pictures that were amazing. My first question was, can people get in the water in Iceland? Because we need to do that. And they said, oh, absolutely. The summer months are beautiful there, and you'll love it. That was a bit of a sales job. Icelanders didn't mind getting in the water, but it was still awfully cold.
Iceland sounds like an odd choice, but it isn't. It's a geothermal volcanic island, much like Iwo is. It's got all pure black sand, like Iwo has. It's very much the same. They're in different meridians, but it's like we were filming in Iceland in August, and the battle for Iwo Jima took place on February 19th. Started on February 19th, 1945. So August in Iceland is kind of like Iwo in February.
The continental drift between continents, between the European and the American continents, meet right in Iceland. And Iceland, being a volcanic island, has a split down the middle, and where Sandvik Beach is, it's the split, which forms a swale. So there was a tremendous amount and deposit of black sand that we could kind of mine, and we spent almost 2 weeks knocking down the existing sand dunes, as well as bringing in, like I say, almost 1.5 million cubic yards of black sand and regrading it to create the berm that was at Iwo. We stacked sand about 14 or 15 feet high for 250 yards to create a plateau that recreated the landing plateau that the U.S. Marines met when they were on Iwo.
I had a 3-man team in Iceland. Myself, there was Mess Sergeant Mender and Gunnery Sergeant Williams. We had training with the background 500 for 2 days, showing them how to do tactics, because in Iceland they don't have weapons. They don't even see that much American movies. So we had to teach them of that time period of how to carry the gear, how to fire a weapon, and how to move with the rifle of the World War II. We had training with the actors. We showed them the tactics of each individual, from officers, how they take charge, and what kind of formations. And then we worked with them every day on the set. They have questions. So great, they're like sponges. They want to ask all questions. They want all the information they could get, because they want to represent their character the best of their ability. And they want to learn a lot about the individual, and they really get into it. They want to make sure they get it right, because they're proud to play the character or the individual they're doing in this movie.
I come from a family with a pretty deep military history. My father was in the Navy during Vietnam, and both my grandfathers fought in World War II. My grandfather was my idol growing up, the one who fought in Germany and was actually decorated as a soldier in the Army. And to do this and pay respect to him and to the men of his generation is a huge, huge responsibility, and also a huge honor in a lot of ways.
I was raised by a drill sergeant, so this stuff's in my blood. And coupled with Clint Eastwood, I just about lost my mind. And so I called my representatives. I called them back. I said, you better get me this movie. You guys are fired. And I found out that the big roles were gone. I said, you don't understand. I don't care if I'm only working 2 days. I want a part in that movie.
I think that it was kind of Clint's idea from the beginning to have it be very much like it would be on the battlefield. All of these young men just sort of thrown into uniform and thrown onto this island and be ambushed as they were. Just the chaos and the confusion and the emotions that would arise just organically in a situation like that.
Our hearts would be beating. I know mine. I mean, after we would run, 30 yards across the battlefield with so much going on and gunfire, literally 100, 200 guns firing at once, and you can't help but be affected by that environment. I don't know, there's something, so obviously sort of male or macho about it to some extent, but it also, you feel like boys, and these were boys, and we kind of connected on that level.
Action! And there's a secret code that I'd come to find later, that all these Marines had. If you were on the rock, if you did EWO, you didn't even need to say it. The guys would just show each other, they'd just show their elbow. Because our elbows are all gouged out from crawling, doing the military crawl on all this lava rock. Their knees and everything. These guys, by the end of it, they didn't have knees in their pants anymore. The knees were blown out, and their knees were all just scabbed up and bloody. Elbows and the whole bit. So it's kind of a secret code with these old timers over there that made it back. It's just like, it's the nod.
I think putting it together for special effects is a lot of research and development, a lot of time and effort spent in developing something that the director is going to want to see. So what we have to do is we have to meet with the director, meet with the producers, see what their vision is, and try and take their vision and put it on film. What we do is all the mechanical, I guess you would say, natural things that occur in a movie, as well as wind, fire, rain, explosions, bullet hits, etc., etc. We pull these things out of the script and we put them together and try and make them all work for the movie. When I spoke with Clint originally about this picture, and Rob Lorenz, they told me that they didn't want the standard explosion in the ground with the gasoline billowing, the flame, the black smoke billowing in the air. And they said they wanted a realistic look, which was when the missiles hit the ground exploded. It didn't go in gasoline and fire, and that's what we gave them. But it took a lot of testing and a lot of time to come up with the safety factors and so on and so forth.
There's a scene where Harlan runs through a field and throws a grenade in a bunker. I got a little bit of direction where to go, and then right before we started rolling, he said, oh, and stay off the red. So I start running, and there are these huge red circles that enclosed these explosives, and we didn't know where any of them were, so we were literally dodging explosions. There was never a point where I felt in danger, but it really made you feel alive and like you were really experiencing it. And your adrenal glands just open up and you take off. It's fantastic.
There was so much going on. At one particular time, we had up to 35 effects guys on different buttons. Some guys had up to 48 different bullet hits that they were dealing with.
Gunner! Bring your rifles to blow on that hill!
Okay, action. Go ahead. Pretend like you're taking pictures. And the rest of you guys are applauding.
I think the biggest issue with this particular picture is it is a period picture. And in order to bring it to life for the film, we really need to go back and look at all the research. And since this is a particular period in history, it was really necessary to spend some time researching all the various aspects of not only Iwo Jima, but also the time after Iwo Jima when the three gentlemen came back to the States, finding out what their itinerary was, where they went, how they were received in what cities, and how big the events were. And it was quite amazing to find out how big the events were for this particular war bond drive and the issues behind the war bond drive.
You know what they're calling this bond drive? The Mighty Seventh. They might have called it that we're flat fucking broke and can't even afford bullets, so we're begging for your pennies bond drive, but it didn't have quite the ring.
That'll be from the explosion, then this will go off. No problem, while you're here, and your phone goes, and you'll pitch the phone. And it's almost in one thing. Just get me another goddamn phone.
Every scene had props basically to use for the whole show. Anything that has to do with actors that they pick up, touch, hold, eat, many other things in addition to that, weapons in particular to this show. We manufactured a lot of rubber weapons when we were in the war scenes, grenades, bazookas, and all that. Newspapers were a big thing in this movie, that we had to get authentic newspapers that came out on the same day, February 25th, 1945, about the flag raising. And people don't archive newspapers, so it was a huge undertaking just to find the newspapers. I had to make license plates from every state that we were in, from every different time period, so you had the span of all those years that you had to have specific license plates for cars. They didn't change just little tags, they changed a whole license plate from year to year back in the mid-century there. So that was a big thing. And I tried as hard as I could and got pretty much, I'd say 99% of everything authentic that I could do.
Oh, cool. Pretty nice. All right, everybody out, and they go out of the car, and we go out with them. And we'll go up this way. Mm-hmm. Look at this thing here.
Yeah.
And go through the crowd and get out, baby.
I design a set for a certain action. Like Clint says, you have to know direction to lay out a set, But he surprises me a lot of time with where he puts the camera.
And today, it's different for him as a director. I mean, he works with this little handheld viewer it's radio, it's separate. He just walks around with it. And so when he used to look at dailies, and he told me this all the time, way back when we started looking at film, the only reason he ever looked at dailies was to see what the operator did, because that's the one thing he couldn't see, what the camera was going. Because he'd have to ask the operator when he didn't have that, so did you get this, this, and this, and have to take his word. Now he can see what it is, so he hardly looks at dailies.
I just am decisive when I like something. If I have any virtue at all, it's that. When I like something, I print it and move on. If I don't like it, then I'll stay and work with it some more and figure out what's not working with it. But by and large, and when everybody's together and all of the troops, everybody knows what they're doing, and all the actors, all the men and women in the cast know exactly what they're going to do and what their participation, chances are they're going to bring to you everything, their imaginations as well.
What the hell is that? I can't figure it out. Sounds like it's coming from inside the rock.
I really shy away from doing anything technically that restrains the performance unless there's an incredibly good reason to do it. If there's some fancy shot that you need to really anchor the person down for, or you get yourself in a situation that well, it may or may not be in focus, so we better do some protection takes and this, that, and the other thing, because he likes it to be very direct for the performances. And he's of the opinion that there's a sort of an accidental spontaneity in a first take from an actor that he's very much interested in.
Being an actor first, he remembers the days of burning down takes and watching the performance kind of go away. And his philosophy for the few takes is that the first time an actor or actress delivers that line, for the next 2 or 3 times, it's going to be the best.
I think you know exactly where.
I've read and heard other directors of past generations say that. They always want to see what the surprise of the first scene. Sometimes I've gotten to the point where I'll even shoot the surprise, because sometimes it's so surprising that it's great. And you can't always get that if you do it 20, 30 times. You can go on and on and on.
Okay, you guys, go ahead, foreground. Go ahead, do your stunt.
Action!
Bunker, 100 yards on the right!
He said something to me, and he said, they've sort of to everybody. We were trying to figure out how to do some shot and connect one thing to another, and we're all standing around and they're talking about it and I'm listening, and he goes, well, let's just try something, because we've come this far, let's not ruin it by thinking. You know, like, it's just a kind of a cool motto. Just let stuff occur and give it a try and let it happen, and, you know, don't ruin it by thinking.
And that's what he gave me in editing when he gave me the reins to it. He said, do yourself one favor, cut it one time, leave it alone, let's look at it. It's something we can always fix. But your first instinct here is what I'm looking for, just like with the actors.
Adam, if you could let his head sort of fall back towards us. Just on your knee, the way you had it, just without your hand.
It's not just a story of fighting and how these people made it through a battle. It's how they were treated as heroes and how they came to grips with that.
The heart of our story is that that photograph represents to Americans then, and it represents now, a certain kind of camaraderie and work ethic to fight an overwhelming enemy. An enemy was determined to hang on. And it was an amazing group of people.
A lot of people have not seen or know this other side of this story about these individuals that put up the flag and how they fought at Iwo. A lot of people don't know how many Marines and Japanese were killed on that island. They went for 36 days, and they fought every day. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to the rear. No. In the rear, the personnel were getting killed also. The American flag means to me freedom. Marine Corps, November 10th, 1775, that's our birthday. And it means freedom if the Marine Corps has been around that long. To protect the United States. Every time I see that flag, I'm so proud.
I fly a flag at my house every day of the year. I mean, and I look at it when I go home, and I look at it at night. And thank God I'm in the United States. Like I say, I'm 90 years old, and I wouldn't be working now if it wasn't for Clint Eastwood. I have a fantastic relationship with him, and that's why I'm still working. And I don't know, I hope I don't have to do any more. I think about the end of my line at 90 years old. But I love doing films, and I guess through the years I've worked 68 years steady. And I've never looked for a job, or I've never been fired. And so I've really had a remarkable career. I've enjoyed every minute of it.